A bold shot across the bows of the European Union or a reckless gamble with Britain's future? The UK's Prime Minister is promising a referendum on his country's membership of the EU. Speaking in London, David Cameron says he's going to offer the British public a simple in or out vote on whether to stay in the Union. He says that referendum will happen by 2017 if he is re-elected. The Prime Minister's acknowledged that the ire he may incur in Europe, but he says Britain is at a crossroads.
And millions dead, sent for the EU in Britain is now wafer thin. Some people say that pointing this out is irresponsible, that it creates uncertainty for business and puts a question mark over Britain's place in the European Union. But the question mark is already there. Ignoring it is not going to make it go away. In fact, I would argue quite the reverse. Those who refuse to contemplate consulting the British people would, in my view, make our exit more likely.
A lot of people in Britain are going to like the idea of a vote on whether to quit the EU, but that prospect is already causing a lot of concern as far away as Berlin and Washington. Joining me now from Downing Street is our senior international correspondent, Matthew Chance. Matthew?
Zane, thanks very much. Well, a very dramatic speech here by David Cameron. I mean, for many years we've been talking about Grexit, the possibility of Greece or other peripheral countries leaving the Eurozone, leaving the European Union. But today, David Cameron raised the possibility of Brexit, as they're calling it, the possibility of Britain leaving the European Union, saying that there'll be a referendum, which will be an in or out referendum put to the British people sometime shortly after the next general election in 2015, in the first half of the Parliament, so before 2017. But it won't be a vote, he said, based on the current relationship between Britain and the European Union. Instead, in the years leading up until it, Britain, he said, will be working hard to renegotiate a settlement with Europe, a new settlement in which various powers would be clawed back from Brussels, and then on the basis of that agreement, if there is one, it will be going to the British people for a vote. Take a listen to what David Cameron had to say earlier.
Simply asking the British people to carry on accepting a European settlement over which they've had little choice is a path to ensuring that when the question is finally put, and at some stage it will have to be, it is much more likely that the British people will reject the European Union. That is why I am in favour of having a referendum. I believe in confronting this issue, shaping it, leading the debate, not simply hoping that a difficult situation will go away.
Well, David Cameron obviously answering, I think, a lot of political pressure he's feeling domestically here. There's a lot of Eurosceptics in his Conservative Party that have been pushing for a debate and a referendum on whether Britain should stay in the European Union or not. Other parties as well, the United Kingdom Independence Party, UKIP, which doesn't have a seat in Parliament, but has been gaining in opinion polls as well, and it wants an exit from the European Union. So there's a lot of political discussion, a lot of debate in Britain about Britain's relationship with Europe, and that was an attempt by David Cameron there to try and head off the critics. Also, it's at a time, Zane, when Europe is examining its own future. There are calls in Europe for closer political and economic union. That's not something David Cameron believes there's a democratic mandate for in Britain to go along with, and so he's trying to insert himself into this debate in order to try and influence the debate as it carries on, Zane.
CNN's Matthew Chance reporting from Downing Street. Independent has in or out. PM pledges EU exit vote by 2017. Now, the article itself says Cameron's taking a gamble, hoping that he's going to get concessions from other EU leaders. Take a look at the Daily Mail's headline. It says, "You will get an in or out vote on Europe." It calls Cameron's speech the biggest gamble of his premiership. And then the Guardian's editorial has this headline. It says, "Moment of truth for a man opposed to risk." It says Cameron is a pragmatic politician who isn't usually a risk taker.